Hey everyone. So last time in class we talked a lot about line. Whoops. We learned what a line is and how we can use line to create expressive artworks. Today in class we're going to talk about pattern and contrast and in preparation for our next project. So pattern is a regular arrangement of alternated or repeated elements. And these elements can be shapes, lines, or colors. You probably already have a good idea of what pattern means because we see pattern a lot in the everyday. Your clothing might have pattern on it. There are many things that use pattern. So I just have a couple examples I found of pretty simple patterns to look at. You can see here, a lot of people know the chevron pattern. Just a whole bunch of zigzaggy lines. It's really simple. This pattern uses different little leaf arrangements and different colors. So they're utilizing color and shape in this pattern. And then this is a pattern that has different shapes. It's got a bunch of different triangles, kind of random all over the place. But there's still some consistency. So we still have a regular arrangement of repeated or alternated elements. Pretty simple. So a couple artists who use pattern. Mondrian is one of them, right here on the left. He makes his work about jazz music and his experiences living in the city. But you can tell that he uses pattern because he uses repeated shapes and colors in his artwork. And then Kusama, if you've been to Crystal Bridges, there's actually an infinity room there with some of her work, and you can walk around in it. You can see these two people. So this is kind of a really big, crazy example of pattern because these big shapes have got circles on them, which can be considered a pattern. And then also when you're in the space, these shapes are technically repeated elements. They're repeated shapes, although they're not really, they're more of a form, like an unnameable form. But anyway, so both of these artists use pattern in their artwork. You can find pattern every day in a lot of things. I have two examples here. Got wallpaper. If you have wallpaper at your house, it might have pattern on it. And clothing. A lot of the clothes we wear have pattern. Lots of stuff every day will utilize pattern as an element. So pattern is something where we should be really familiar with. If you need a little more explanation, we'll totally talk about it. But it's pretty simple. Just a bunch of repeated shapes or colors. So contrast is our next term. And contrast means the joining of different elements of design put together in order to create visual interest. So this basically means that we have two different elements, which we know are elements to be like shape, line, value, that kind of stuff. And those two things will be put together to create something that's visually interesting. So here we have a lemon slice, and whoever created this made this lemon slice on the left in blue and this one in pink. Maybe it's actually a grapefruit. But this image uses contrast to create visual interest because we have two very different colors here with the same kind of shape in the middle. So it's very visually different and interesting because of those colors. Here's another example. You can put colors in close proximity to one another, and that creates contrast. Like if you have a bunch of crayons in a box and you're reaching in there trying to find the color blue, well, you're going to look at the difference in colors when you're kind of digging through your crayon box to find the blue crayon, right? Because the value, the color that the blue is different than all the other crayons around it. So, contrast is just kind of like two different things put together. I'm going to have an example of a zebra here because zebras have a lot of contrast. They've got black and white stripes. So both of these terms are pretty simple. And we are using them along with our understanding of line, to create Zentangle art. This will be our next assignment. So a Zentangle is art that is non-representational and unplanned. So we are not going to need to sketch for this. You'll focus on what you're drawing in the moment. You don't need to think about an end result. The goal of making a Zentangle is just to, it's honestly kind of like a meditative practice. Like, you don't know what you don't have any plan for anything that you're doing. You're just going at it. And you can see, I think this is a really good example because this person started by making all of these sections. They probably made all of these really big curvy lines on their page. And then they went through and they filled each section in with a different pattern. And you can see a lot of these patterns have a lot of contrast. Got stripes here, just like that zebra. There's a lot of negative space, but there's a lot of space that's been filled in. So this project will help us get an understanding about how to apply contrast, line, and pattern. Here are a couple more examples. You can see these squiggly lines and dots, triangles, really anything goes with Zentangle. It's just non-representational. Well, part it can be a little bit representational, but we're not drawing an object, we're drawing just a kind of an expansive design. But you can see here that this person put some leaves in their drawing, and that's totally cool. Got lots of lines going on. Yeah, so it's pretty simple, but you should spend about at least an hour doing this. You can create a couple Zentangles, or you can choose to just fill up a big sheet. If you're working at home, it might be nice to get like a piece of computer paper and do this and try to fill the whole thing up. At school, we're going to be sketching in our sketchbooks. Well, we're going to be doing a couple thumbnail Zentangles in our sketchbooks because this doesn't require much planning, but just to kind of get the hang of doing it. And then we're going to draw a final Zentangle on a larger sheet of paper, about 8.5 by 11. So if you have any computer paper at home, I will write this down in our Google Classroom, but you will want to use a pen or a permanent marker like a Sharpie to do this, because we kind of want to get rid of the tendency to want to erase. Like, we just want to like put it on the paper and keep going. Okay, if you have any questions about this, as always, you can email me. You should get on our Remind 101 if that's a little easy for you to communicate with me. I will have that opened up on my computer when I'm here at school, so if I have some downtime, I can reply to you through that or email. Either works. Okay, well, I hope you have a good rest of your day and that this is a fun project. I think it's pretty fun. It's really meditative, so it's a nice kind of brain break, but we're still learning some of the elements of design and art that we need to know in a fun way.